Okay, hi, welcome to this latest webinar dealing with furlough and redundancies. This one we are focusing on redundancies involving more than 20 employees in a 90-day period. So we're looking at collective redundancy consultations. Let me get my slides up. So here we go. So as I say, we're looking for more than 20 redundancies. If you're doing fewer than 20 redundancies, we have done a separate webinar, which you can see separately on our website. But for those of you who have a bit larger or have been hit a bit harder, this is what we're looking at in terms of redundancies. So the first step is actually the same largely as any redundancy for any number of employees, and that is your preparation work. Preparation is key for any redundancy process, because lots of employers do get caught out rushing into it for obvious reasons. You're looking to make cost savings, you need that to happen now, but you tend to get caught out much later down the line if you don't get this right. So the first port of call is to create a spreadsheet. I want a very, very simple example there. Name of the employee, what their start date is, notice pay, redundancy pay, and their holiday pay to a particular date. Let's just say, for argument's sake, the 1st of July, and work out what all those costs from everyone from the very top, the most senior directors, all the way down to the most junior staff. And the benefit of having this grid is it gives you a flavour for how expensive this could be, this process, and allows you to role play different scenarios. If we move more people out of that team into this team, or remove some more people from there, we could make a greater saving. It's much easier to see it all there, albeit the first time you see the final figures, it'll probably give you a bit of a heart attack. And then, of course, you've got to balance that against what your cash pot is. So you need to know at all times that you can cover not only the monthly salaries, but also the redundancy costs. If you dwindle your cash or reduce your cash position too far, you could find yourself in the unenviable position of not being able to pay your redundancy costs, and then you really are in quite a bit of difficulty. Having done that, you then need to take a bit of a hard-headed look at what is work going to look like over the next 6, 12 months. What are the skill sets you're going to require? How many people are you going to need in each department? What vacancies do you have? You may be looking to make cuts in one part of your business, but actually you're seeing a surge of work in another part of your business. So can you move people over? Maybe possible, may not, but it's worth looking through all of that. Now, one of the immediate instincts of people is to look at those who have less than 2 years service, so don't have protection from unfair dismissal, but they may be the people that have the skills you require. They may have the experience you require. That may be why you recruited them in the last 6 months or so. And so it's important that you concentrate on what do you need, what are you going to need over the next few months, rather than necessarily just who is the cheapest person to get rid of right now. Where you're making a large number of redundancies, where you're looking at collective consultation, you need to notify the Secretary of State. You do that through Form HR1, and that needs to be submitted before you start the process, so that they can look at what support they may need to put in place locally to support your staff finding other work, or that at least is the theory behind it. You then need to look at what we call the affected employees. That includes not only those who may be made redundant, but also those who will be retained but may be affected. They may need to adjust their duties. They may need to take on somebody else's duties. They may have a greater amount of work to deal with. So that you need to identify those. It's slightly wider than just, well, who's being made redundant. Well, look, what's the ripple effect, if you like, of those redundancies, and making sure that we involve those people in this process. Importantly, when you're assessing the number of prospective redundancies, we are looking at the number of redundancies. Okay, we're not looking at the ripple effect. It's only so far as who you need to consult with that we're looking at that broader group. You then need to look at the representatives. So the purpose of collective consultation is that you consult via representatives. Obviously, if you've recognised a trade union, then they are the representatives. If you've not recognised a trade union, you're looking at employee representatives. You may already have those, they may already be in place, or you may need to organise a ballot and an election for them to be determined, and you need to get people to volunteer. And then if you have more volunteers than you have the number of representatives, you would look to hold an election. Once you've done that, then the first key stage in the consultation process is the provision of information to those representatives. That includes things like the reasons for the redundancies, the number of redundancies you're potentially looking at, what your rationale is behind that, and also your proposed method of selection. What are your proposed criteria? And we go back then to the initial preparatory work you undertook to make sure that you get the skill sets and the experiences that you require. And those then all go into the pot, and you move then into the period of consultation proper. And that will involve a series of meetings with the representatives then going and speaking with the employees they represent. And again, it's looking at avoiding compulsory redundancies. It's looking at ways to try and reduce the number of redundancies if possible, and then to mitigate the consequences of that. So it could be the provision of outplacement support or something similar. So the consultation can go any number of ways. Now, if you're a large employer, you're looking to dismiss a minimum of 100 people, then that consultation must last a minimum of 45 days. If you're looking to dismiss between 20 and 99, it must last a minimum of 30 days. But those are only minimums. They can go on for a bit longer if needed and if they are constructive. Once the scoring criteria has been agreed, you need to apply that, and then you would have individual meetings with each of your employees who have scored least well. Obviously, you would run your scoring criteria. Whoever scores least well is then at high risk, and you would meet with them to discuss their scores. There may be particular reasons why they've scored less well. For example, if they have had a poor attendance record, but they have a disability, perhaps you don't even know they have a disability, they bring that to your attention, you may need to revise the scores so as not to fall foul of the Equality Act. Once you've had those meetings, you can look to dismiss. You would dismiss by, or confirm that dismissal in a letter. You would give the right to appeal, and if there's an appeal hearing, then you would you would hold that, and then again confirm the outcome in writing. Once they've been made redundant, they are entitled to the relevant payments, so salary to the date of dismissal, their redundancy pay, their notice pay, their accrued but untaken holiday, and any other payments that are due to them under their contract. So that's a real whistle-stop tour of collective consultation. There are pros and cons to it. So obviously, the whole process of having to elect representatives, the minimum time period for consultation can often be seen as a negative. There is also realistic, if you're electing representatives, those who put themselves forward are often the more militant amongst your staff. But equally, it can be a lot easier than individual consultation, because you're meeting with representatives. You're not going to have to carry out sort of 18, 19 individual consultation meetings, times maybe 2 or 3 sets. So actually it can save a lot of time. And actually, if you get decent representatives and decent trade union people, you can get a very constructive dialogue. And if the redundancies are agreed with the representatives and the criteria are agreed with the representatives, it can greatly reduce the amount of scope for challenge by an employee at the employment tribunal. So well worth reflecting on that. So I hope you found this webinar useful. You'll see my details on the screen in front of you. If you have any queries or concerns, please do let us know. Thank you very much.